Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order our meeting today of the Pitt County Department of Social Services. This is November the 10th, 2020. We will open our meeting by observing a moment of silence, silent prayer or meditation. Okay, thank you. So we'll open up with any public comments, Susan. So we have no public comments today or no guests. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and take the roll.
Okay.
Susan.
Chairman Cox.
Present.
Vice Chair Bunch.
Present.
Jerome Dancy. His hand was up.
Present.
Okay, I'll take that. Catherine Nelson.
Present.
Hands up. Mary Perkins Williams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Susan.
present.
So the first item on our agenda today is to adopt or revise today's agenda. Could I have a motion, please? Mary? And a second.
Good.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dancy. And I guess we need to call the roll again, Susan.
Okay. To get your vote, Chair
Yes.
Cox.
Agree?
Vice Chair Bunch.
Agree.
Mr. Dancy. He's
Hands
waving.
up. We got it?
Miss Nelson.
Agree.
Miss Perkins Williams.
I agree.
Okay, thank you. And next on the agenda is the minutes from our previous meeting, and we'll need a motion to approve those also, please.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Bunch. And Susan?
Okay. Chairman Cox.
Approved.
Vice Chair Bunch.
Approve.
Mr. Dancy.
Approved.
Okay, Miss Nelson.
Approved.
Miss Perkins Williams.
Approve.
Okay, thank you, Susan. With that out of the way, we're going to move to a relatively new agenda item, and we're going to recognize our new hires. And Jan, I'm going to turn it over to you to let them.
We're excited. We've got 5 wonderful folks who have joined the agency in the last month. So I want to give you the chance to meet them. We're going to start with Angela Jackson, who is our new adult guardianship worker. Come on down. So what we ask you to do is introduce yourself to the group and tell a little bit about yourself, where you came from, kind of what you're doing.
Okay. My name is Angela Jackson. I'm the new guardianship social worker here at Pitt County DSS. I do reside here in Pitt County. Been here maybe 20 years. Originally, I went to Roanoke High School and college, not in North Carolina, did some online studies. I came from Coastal Horizon Center. I was employed with that agency for 7 years, where I did drug and alcohol assessments and mental health screenings for Beaufort County probation and parole.
Thank you,
Great.
Angela.
Welcome.
Good to have
Welcome.
you. Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Okay, Dominique Hall would be our next person. Dominique is in child welfare investigations. So a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the group.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dominique Hall, and I'm with CPS In-Home Services with Children's Services. I come from Halifax County, born and raised in Halifax County. My previous job, I was at Halifax County DSS as a foster home licensing social worker.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Dominic.
we're
Thank you.
excited to
Pleasure to
have
have you.
Thank you.
have
Glad to
both.
be here.
We're excited to
Welcome.
have both y'all, because I mean we've been needing help. Okay, our next person is Tracy O'Neill. Tracy's coming from customer care. Okay, there you are. Come on over here. And customer care's been hurting too. They have been just so excited to see you.
Yes, ma'am.
So
My name is Tracy O'Neill. I currently work at customer service over at Pitt County. I come from Beaufort County Department of Social Services, where I was responsible for medical transportation and SIP and LEAP. Previously, I was in Virginia, been down here for 5 years, but I was born and raised in Belhaven, North Carolina.
Welcome, Tracy.
Welcome.
welcome, welcome. So we stole one from Beaufort County.
No.
Okay, and so now we got Tasha Barrett, who is coming to us, and she's an income maintenance caseworker too. Again, everybody is so thrilled to have somebody. So tell us about yourself.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latasha Barrett. I go by Tasha. I started with the government with Guilford County. I started out as customer service, and then I moved on to Union County, where I was an adult Medicaid caseworker, and now I'm here at Pitt County. I was born and raised in Greene County, and I have a bachelor's in psychology. I'm currently taking up my master's in social work, so I do hope to continue to grow with the agency.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Great.
Good luck.
Excited to have you. And now Michelle Gooding. Michelle is our new child welfare trainer. And so we're thrilled to have Michelle. This is something that's been a long time coming, having a child welfare trainer.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Gooding, and I hail from Kinston, North Carolina. I'm a lifelong member there. My immediate past work is disaster related. Been working on Hurricane Matthew with Rebuild NC, as well as teaching at Lenore Community College. We're excited to be here. I'm a mom. I have an 8-year-old, and I also have a husband. Thank you.
Welcome. We're thrilled. So that's our group today. So we are all excited to have these folks on board. They all started in the month of October.
That is wonderful. And they're welcome to stay, or if they have,
Yes,
if you need to leave, you
or
need to
you can
leave.
leave. That's right. I know there's a lot going on, so.
And we wish you all well. Okay, well, that's, okay. Next on the agenda are items for consent. I think we have one item.
We do. Mhm. This is something that it looks like it's a large sum of money. It is a project that Mideast Commission does. It is for the whole county for senior services. So it is, besides the money that we get from that, the senior center gets money, the creative living folks get money. So this money passes through to a lot of different folks, but we were the ones responsible for running it for the county to get approval from the commissioners for the contract. And so that's what this is about. And hope folks, if you've got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
No questions. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Bunch. A second? I see a hand. There's a hand. There's Mary Perkins Williams. And Susan, could you call the roll, please?
Chairman Cox,
Approve.
Vice Chair Bunch,
Approve.
Mr. Dancy,
Approved.
Ms. Nelson,
Approved.
Ms. Perkins Williams.
Approve.
Thank you, Susan.
Welcome.
Okay, moving along here now for items for report. We're going to hear from Brian Averett, and he's going to give us an update on the LEAP program.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We are now gearing up for the annual Low-Income Energy Assistance Program. This is a program that is conducted from December through March of each year, and it is intended to provide a one-time vendor payment for eligible households to assist with heating expenses. So the program funding for LEAP for the 2020-2021 fiscal year, Pitt County's appropriation is $1,015,678. That's about $48,000 more than we received for last fiscal year. So we did have an increase in the allocation. The application period is December 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021, or until all the funds have been spent. In this program, the assistance is credited to utility accounts of the households who are eligible. So the payment goes directly to the utility provider. Now, the priority group for applying in December is at least one individual of the household must be 60 years of old or older. or a person who is receiving disability, but also receiving a service through the State Division of Aging and Adult Services. So just disability alone, you're not in the priority group. But if you have a received disability and are receiving a service through Division of Aging and Adult Services, you may also apply in December. Any applicants who do not fall inside the priority group may apply beginning the 1st of January. This year, we have a special program because the state received pandemic funds, and the decision was made at the state level to do automated payments for households who had a client that fell in the priority group and received the benefit in the last fiscal year, but is also currently receiving food and nutrition services or food stamps. So those individuals will be receiving, actually the notices were to go out today. So sometime this week or the first part of next week, those individuals will be notified by mail and will receive a notice asking that if there's any change in their situation, to please either call us at social services or submit the change form that's included with the notice, mail it back to us. What that will mean is that these households will not have to make an application. We have a report that's run through the NC FAST system that has identified those households. And if there are any changes, the LEAP workers will make the changes, and then those who continue to qualify will receive an automatic vendor payment. And so it won't be necessary for those that are in that group to receive assistance. And the good thing about the added pandemic funds and this program is that those households are being covered by the pandemic fund. So what that means is the additional $1,015,000 will be able to serve more households than we were able to serve the last LEAP program, because all those, I think there were about 1,105 households identified that fell into the automated payment group. They're being paid after a different funding source. So that means we're going to be able to extend this program to even more households this year, which is a good thing. We are set up to take applications at the Pitt County Human Services Center, but clients who do not wish to apply in person, we're doing telephone applications also, so they can call and a telephone application may be done. Starting in January, the state has indicated that the LEAP application should be available on the ePass website, which is where the food and nutrition services and Medicaid applications are. So clients who have access to the internet may apply electronically through ePass based on the tentative availability of that application in January. We do have some community partners still assisting us this year: the Northern Pitt Improvement Association, St. John's Missionary Baptist Church in Stokes, St. Rest United Holy Church in Winterville, and the Pitt County Council on Aging is assisting us with reaching clients that they are serving, including their clients that are served by the Homebound Meals Program. We always reach out through the Council on Aging to those also who are receiving homebound meals. So that's sort of an overview of the program for this year. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So anybody have questions for Brian?
I see a hand from Ms. Perkins Williams.
Okay. Mary, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Brian if I can add one more, community service group to that. I need to wait for an answer from the place before it's announced publicly, because
Okay.
Because of COVID, I think it would be good to go there. Okay.
Sure. We will be happy to do that. It's not too late. It's never too late. So, hopefully we would be able to have the information in time when we do our press release later in November before the program starts December 1st. That would be great.
Will do. And when will training be? Because I would need to tell them about the training.
Well, the training will be sort of later in this month. We're going to sort of do one-on-ones instead of bringing everybody in at the same time, so we can space out and not have that many people in the training area at one time. So we'll contact you about the date and time for that, because we'll have each community partner come in at a different scheduled time.
Okay. We usually do it in the conference when we're at the facility north of the river. Couldn't we use the Ag Center?
I don't know.
Everybody at once?
I beg your pardon. I couldn't hear you.
I said, couldn't we do the Ag Center if you want to do everyone at once? And because someone else may ask a question that somebody else could receive on. And
well, once I know exactly how many people are going to come, sure, then, if that will determine, we might be able to. It just depends on how many individuals we have.
Good idea. Good idea. I would like to know if it was,
Sure. Thank you for that question, Mary.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you
very much.
Okay, moving along on our items for report. The last couple months, I guess probably the last 3 or 4 months, we've invited community partners in to give us updates and information about programs that are occurring in our community. And today we have Miss Amy Maudlin, and she is the housing coordinator administrator, I guess, for Trillium Health Services. Amy, are you on the line there? I can see you.
I am. I'm here.
Hey, so so we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
So we're gonna bring up the slide.
Yeah.
There it is.
Let me see if I can make it bigger on my end.
I think we can make it bigger by making it
my computer, it's either use my computer or use my camera. So I decided I'd use my video today. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
So my name's Amy Maudlin, and I'm the director of housing at Trillium, and we have a lot going on. So I'm going to present to you some of the housing programs, the ones in particular that include and pertain to Pitt County. Next slide. So the housing programs we have going on right now are our Housing and Urban Development Permanent Supportive Housing. We have 3 of those grants. We have an up and coming Back at Home COVID, which is an emergency solutions grant. We have the HOPE program, which is through the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency. And then we have Oxford House. Next slide. So what is PSH? Who is eligible for the program? Is it only for Trillium members? How do I access the program? And when does this program end? Next slide. So permanent supportive housing at Trillium is very similar to Section 8 or a housing choice voucher. It's funded by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It provides rent and utility assistance based on income. Services with the program are encouraged, that supportive part, but are not required to participate in the program. Trillium never wants to tie housing to services. We don't want to make you you don't have to be sober or in recovery to access our housing services. Some of the criteria for the program is people who are experiencing homelessness, have a disability, and have low to no income. And for this particular program, they have to be Trillium members. So they could have any kind of disability on top of the requirements of being a Trillium member. So they would have to have mental health, substance use, or intellectual developmental disability. Next slide. The way you access the program is you can call Trillium's call center and you'll receive a vulnerability assessment. Individuals, so from there, depending on the score, individuals are placed on a community-wide prioritization list based on the vulnerability score. So the advantage of being placed on this list is they could be eligible for more than one program. We don't have slots open up very often in our program. Everybody knows we have an affordable housing shortage everywhere. And so once they get on this prioritization list, if another program opens up a slot, they can possibly be eligible for that program too. So as the slots become available, the agencies who are in charge of those programs, whichever program they're eligible for, they contact the individual and begin the enrollment process. So from there, if it's not a Trillium program, say it's a program coming out of the shelter or with Pitt County will take over that person's case and they'll start the enrollment in their individual program. The program is technically permanent with no set time limit, but the ultimate goal is for participants to become independent of the program, but that's not always possible. Sometimes success for a person is just remaining in their housing for a particular amount of time, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and they may never be able to move out of the program. We have a lot of people that do eventually move out. They may get a housing choice voucher. They may move out on their own and not have any assistance. So there is, it is permanent housing, but we would like to push them along to be independent as possible. Next slide. So back at home COVID. What is back at home COVID? Who is eligible for the program? Is this only for Trillium members? And how do I access this program? Next. This is a new program that we haven't gotten the contract for it. We're still learning about it. Trillium's part of this. So back at home COVID, it was funded by the CARES Act. Our part provides prevention and rapid rehousing for people affected by COVID. It's not just for Trillium members. It's for anybody in our catchment area that's been affected by COVID. So the prevention eligibility. So if you're eligible for the prevention piece, you would be below 30% AMI. You would have to be forced to leave current housing in 14 days and one of the following living situations. I really went back and forth about including all this, but I felt like it was important to at least get it on the slide. So you have to be in a hotel, motel, not paid by a nonprofit or government, or living in a campsite or trailer, or living doubled up. Prospective participant is not a leaseholder in that doubled up situation, or they're an unaccompanied youth under 22 who cannot stay with family members with no stable place to live, or in housing that is leased or exiting an institution. And I feel like there's a lot of and/ors in these programs. And if no other safe, appropriate residence, whether temporary or permanent, to stay for 14 days or longer, and does not have sufficient resources or support networks immediately available to prevent them from becoming literally homeless. Next slide. So the rapid rehousing piece, the eligibility for that is the same AMI, but the AMI is at recertification. So once you're in the program, you have to be below AMI at recertification. If not, we can move you on out of the program. You have to be living in an emergency shelter, transitional housing, or streets, place not meant for human habitation, or fleeing domestic violence, or institution for less than 90 days, literally homeless, in an emergency shelter, transitional housing, streets, place not meant for human habitation, immediately before institutionalization. So if you're in the hospital for 90 days, prior to being in the hospital, you had to have been literally homeless before you went into the hospital. And the household does not have sufficient resources or support networks immediately available to prevent them from becoming literally homeless. So the prevention piece is to keep people in housing, if at all possible, to keep them from becoming homeless. The rapid rehousing piece is people are already homeless and we're trying to rapidly rehouse them and get them out of the homeless system as fast as possible. Next slide. So the prevention services include housing relocation if we can't stabilize them in the housing. Sometimes that does happen. Sometimes by the time we get there, it's too late and we can't stabilize them. So housing relocation and stabilization services that include housing stability case management, housing search and placement, mediation, legal services, and credit repair. Some of the things such as legal services and credit repair, we refer them to outside resources that have more, that are experts in those fields. The financial assistance includes rent application fees, security and utility deposits, last month's rent, utility payments, short-term rental assistance, and long-term rental assistance and arrears. Next slide, please. Rapid rehousing services are similar. So rapid rehousing, it would be housing relocation almost always, and then stabilizing them in the new house that we put them in. With housing stability case management, housing search and placement, mediation, legal services, and credit repair. The financial assistance is short-term rental assistance, long-term rental assistance, arrears, rent application fees, security and utility deposits, last month's rent, utility payments, and moving costs. Next. So we haven't begun these referrals yet because we don't have a contract. So this is where it gets sort of murky for me, since we haven't actually gone through the process of doing this program yet. The referrals will happen in 2 stages. Right now, well, the Continuum of Care regional committees have an initial surge population. So the communities identified priority populations specific to their area. So say your area, I'm not sure what the surge population is, Jim probably knows, but say you're in your area, victims of domestic violence is in the surge population. You've decided that that's a priority in your area. So they would be the first people that were served under this program in the surge priority population. Ongoing referrals will come from 211 call center and the local Continuum of Care regional committees. They'll be pulled down off that prioritization list that I mentioned earlier that our permanent supportive housing draws off of. I hope that makes sense. Next slide. Yeah, since COVID hasn't started yet, I feel like I don't have all the information that we need for that program, but we're expecting the contract any minute, and I'll be able to update y'all as we become better experts at that program. We did do back at home Florence for our southern counties, and we're just wrapping that up currently. And it's similar to that, but there are still some tweaks and differences that are going to be, we're going to have to learn on the new program. So the HOPE program is our newest and biggest program. What is the HOPE program? Who is eligible for it? Is it only for Trillium members? How do I access the program? And when does this program end? Next slide. So the HOPE program, Trillium received $5.1 million from the Office of Resiliency and Recovery through the CARES Act. The purpose of the program, the sole purpose, is to prevent eviction and/or homelessness. We want to get in there and help people as quickly as possible by providing rent arrears and utility assistance. The eligibility is the reason for the possibility of losing housing has to be tied to COVID. And that's a pretty loose definition they use. You could have lost income due to losing your job. You could have lost income due to family members being sick with COVID. There's all kinds of ways you can apply, you can tie the reason you might lose your housing to COVID. The income limit is pretty high based on what we normally work with. They can't be over 80% of AMI per county. So whatever that is in each county, they can't go over that. They must be a renter. They have to be behind on rent, and they have to be behind on their utilities. And they do not have to be a Trillium member. Again, this is a program that we're operating for anybody who meets this eligibility. They don't have to be a Trillium member. Next slide. Access to the program is incredibly easy. You just have to call 211, or they can access the application online at nc211.org/hope/. This stage of the program is ending December 30th, 2020. We're hearing there may be a second round of funding coming in the future, but we haven't gotten any information on how much that is, if it'll start December 31st. Yeah, we don't have any information on that. I can tell you statewide, I think they said this morning on our HOPE program call, they've gotten over 35,000 applications. And as of this morning, Trillium had over 4,300 applications. And so while the application, I say that to say the application process is incredibly easy, but we are overwhelmed by the need, and we're working as fast as we can. We've onboarded 10 temps in the last 3 weeks, probably. We didn't start the referral process, picking up referrals until October 15th. So from the afternoon of October 15th to now, we have 4,300 eligible referrals. They're going to cut off the referrals. I don't know when, but they will get to a point where they'll cut them off because they only want to do referrals for the number of people that we have money for. And so whoever's deemed eligible, they're guaranteed to get the assistance. It may just take us a little while to get to them. We're a couple weeks behind at least, even just contacting applicants, but we're constantly onboarding temps to get through and get people the service as soon as possible. Letters have gone out to everybody that's applied. It didn't come out from Trillium. Encore sent the letters out that they can take it to their landlord and or their utility company to show them that they have applied for the HOPE program, they are eligible, and assistance is coming. Next slide. And finally, our Oxford House project. For those that aren't aware, Oxford House is a concept in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. An Oxford House is democratically run, self-supporting, and drug-free home. This publicly supported nonprofit 501c3 corporation is the umbrella organization which provides the network connecting all Oxford houses and allocates resources to duplicate the Oxford House concept. Next slide. The average number of residents in a house is about 8. That seems to be the magic number for everybody getting along and being able to do well together. There are houses for men, women, and women with children. We opened a women with children maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. In Pitt County, it was the first one east of I-95, so we were really proud of that, and it's still open today. In fact, I think within 2 days after opening, one of the women in the house actually delivered her baby. So that was exciting. Each resident of Oxford House holds a lease just like they would in an apartment, and they pay rent. The houses are responsible for accepting individuals into a home. That's the only way to apply. You don't come through Trillium. The houses vote on, you have to unanimously vote on a person being accepted into the house. Houses can also and do vote a person out of the home for various reasons, including non-payment of rent and relapse. There's zero tolerance in every house for relapse. They can definitely, if they relapse and they get evicted from the home, they can definitely go back through, some kind of program or get connected with services and reapply to an Oxford House. Lots and lots of people relapse and they go back to Oxford House later and are very successful. Anyone interested needs to apply directly to the house that they're interested in. So like in Greenville, there are several, and you could go on the Oxford House website and look at the list of houses and their locations. Next slide. So the way Trillium is connected, Trillium has combined our experience and resources with the vision for sober living of Oxford House to create a unique model that increased sober living options for people in Eastern North Carolina. Oxford House 2020 was a 5-year project between Trillium and the Oxford House with the goal of opening 20 Oxford houses throughout Trillium's catchment area by June 2020. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit and we were 2 houses short when everything kind of shut down. So we got 18 houses within the 5-year project. Trillium uses a variety of state and county funds to fund this project. Next slide. Yeah. As of July 2020, Trillium has entered into a new contract with Oxford House. This is a yearly contract with the goal of opening 4 houses per year. An Oxford House for Men opened in Beaufort County in October 2020. So that's our newest one. And then an upcoming one will be opening for men in Brunswick County in November of 2020. So sometime this month, they'll have a new house opening there. So in spite of the pandemic, Oxford House is already halfway to fulfilling the current contract. Next slide. Yeah, I thought that was it. I know that was a lot of information. Do you have questions?
That was great, Amy.
I do, Amy. I may have missed this, but what does AMI stand for?
Area median income, sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other questions for Amy?
And we will send these slides
Yes.
out. They came this morning and I didn't get a chance to send them out, but we'll send them to all the boards so you'll have them.
Thank you. I have a
Mary
question.
has a
but,
question.
Yeah, Mary
Ms.
has a
London.
question. Commissioner
Yes,
Williams.
my question is, unless I'm wrong, I think to access the services, you have to go online. Is that correct?
Which services?
I saw one that talked about rent. I get a lot of rent behind, rent payment and
The HOPE program. Yes, ma'am. You can either call 211 or go online and access the application through their website.
Okay, here's my concern. There are a lot of holes over here as far as website and internet connection. And I've been getting a lot of calls about rent assistance. To refer them to the 211, there seems to be an issue or something, but people tell you things, I know that. But is there any other way that they can do that other than through the internet?
And call 211. Those are the only 2 ways. That's the only referral points that we have for the HOPE program.
And I think I had heard, this is Jan, I think I had heard originally that there had maybe been some wait time on the 211 when this first came out because of all the folks trying to call. So that may be some of what the commissioner is commenting on. Maybe it's
They were
better.
saying it didn't work. And so, I mean, I know Janice told me about the 211 before, but when you are afraid of being evicted, then you don't have the patience that you should, I guess I should say.
Yeah, and we understand that completely. Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if there was an alternative way to refer that anxious person.
It's just 211. We don't have the tools to do the original application. So they have to go through that 211 system. And it may have slowed down by now, maybe. I think the system has been very overwhelmed. I know we have been by the need and the referrals, the applications.
I just unfortunately tell them, try social services, they might can direct you. I mean, since COVID, I do that. But ordinarily, I try to find out myself, so the next time I have a question, I can send them directly to whatever. But I'm being careful and cautious. And I send them to Brian and those. Call social services, maybe they have a list of people.
And the other thing I know a few people have done, if they're working with a particular agency or a person, they may call them and the agency will walk through the online application with them. If the person doesn't have access to internet or is unable to do for whatever reason, the online application.
How many pages is it?
I don't know. I haven't even looked at it. I don't think it's too long though, because I've been in our referral system and there's not a ton of stuff in there that they have to fill out.
It's not very
It's just a series of questions.
Okay. I was just curious, because as I get on with open the community center back up, I wanted to be a bit more worthy of assisting others.
Yeah, it's just an online database that you don't have to print the application out. You just fill it in online.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Other questions for Amy? Thank you, Amy. That was wonderful information, and I really appreciate Trillium and you and your staff for stepping up in this area. I know it's been a tremendous amount of work, but it's very beneficial for our community. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next on our agenda here, we have Mr. Dave Peterson with Trillium again, and welcome, Dave, and look forward to hearing your information. Commissioner Perkins Williams had brought up the importance of helping get information out. So it's good that you could come today and share information with us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Permission to remove my mask?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have slurred speech with the mask, so thank you for having me here today. And when Jan reached out a couple weeks ago, I said I'd be happy to come in. And as most of you know, one of the reasons why I brought Sean Kenny in with me is because we cover 26 counties. 25 counties are very, very happy that we hired Sean, Pitt County DSS. Well, actually, Jan is happy too, but we are very fortunate to have Sean with his DSS background with Trillium now. And I think Jan has even said it's a nice conduit to have between. So with that being said, let me make sure. So I'm going to just do one quick slide on our numbers. We cover 26 counties, 1.4 million total population. We have about 266 Medicaid eligible individuals. We serve about 57,000 people with mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use disorder each year. And you can see the breakdown between those three populations. We have approximately 500 providers in our 26 counties. We spent over $475 million last year on services. Our smallest county is Terrell County, and our largest one is New Hanover County, and we cover over 12,000 square miles. So now specifically to Pitt County, last fiscal year, we served 7,626 individuals and 6,000 with a primary diagnosis of mental health, 1,738 with a diagnosis of substance use, and over 1,000 individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. You'll see that those numbers don't add up because the people have dually diagnosed services and supports. So providers specifically in Pitt County, we have over 90 providers that do services in Pitt County. This covers adults and children for mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities. And they range from basic outpatient services to in-home services to facility-based services to the hospitals, okay? So those are throughout Pitt County, all those services. And one example, when people hear the number 90, we contract with a licensed independent practitioner, one LCSW, and that's one of the 90. But we also have large agencies, and I'm going to hit on a couple of the large agencies that are specific to Pitt County. Like I said, we have 90 of them. But when Jan reached out to me, she was specifically asking about what we're doing around crisis services. And so first, we have mobile crisis. And if folks aren't aware of that, that's a service that is tied to our sheriff's departments and police departments, and they can go out on calls. Integrated Family Services, I'm going to use the IFS in here. Integrated Family Services can go out on calls with the sheriff and the police department. And I'm not sure if you saw the news of the Greenville Police a couple of weeks ago. It was with integrated in the sheriff's police department. The Greenville Police Department, to working hand in hand on those calls. So that's a key point of integrated family services. They also have an open access clinic right across from the hospital up the road where you can walk in, okay? And then they can serve you right then and there. So that's an open access. And I was in a meeting in Beaufort County, and when the Beaufort County DSS director heard that, she automatically had one of her staff go take one of the kids that they were currently in working with and drove her right up here to see Integrated Family Services. Integrated Family Services also has crisis chat. So the younger population does not like to talk to us. Therefore, they like to chat, and it's a chat room that can attach to staff at Integrated Family Services. But here's the interesting thing. They're getting more and more adults doing that now, okay, doing the crisis chat. They also have a service called Critical Incident Stress Management Teams. This is utilized after a fairly traumatic event. They can go into schools. If there's some trauma in the schools, then they can go in there and do that. They can go to they can come to the health department, the DSS department, and do the critical incident stress management. Folks don't know much about that. But if you think about the stress nowadays that COVID is causing, I would encourage folks to take a look at that. Okay? They also do community crisis respite. And this is new. And we've partnered with Social Services Department. We have one home here in Pitt County, and Sean was kind of the lead of helping that get going. But it's a 4-bedroom house here in Pitt County for kids, and there's only 3 referral agencies that can refer kids there. Trillium, Integrated Family Services, who runs the home, and Pitt County DSS, okay? Just the DSSs can refer kids there. So we want to make sure that that is utilized. We opened up another one in Craven County, and so we're trying to take a look at those homes in other areas. We also, many of you know, we have a facility-based crisis that Port runs right up the road. We have just started, and when I say just, we literally just got a contract from the state to do medication-assisted treatment therapy in the jails with the Sheriff's Department. And we're now negotiating with Port and the Sheriff's Department how to get those FTEs hired to work in the jail system. So that is going to be really good. We have one down in New Hanover County right now. And the sooner we can get services to those individuals while in jail, the more successful they're going to be when they get out of jail. We also have intensive outpatient program that Port does, and so that's a very clinical access to services that Port provides. Port also does court order services. I won't hit on Kelly House or Stepping Stone because that's kind of what Amy was talking about. We do have a wellness city in town, and that one is also can be a walk-in. And if you ever get a chance to go over there, feel free. That is a national model that is utilized all over the country. So if folks are interested in that, I would encourage you to go over there. So some of the things that Trillium does, we provide crisis interventions teams training, and this is for primarily law enforcement, but we've also done it with EMSs now. And I've been to several of the trainings here in Pitt County, and a lot of the sheriff's departments are trained, and the Greenville Police Department are trained in that. And we have some EMS trained in crisis intervention teams. We do mental health first aid, and that's for the general public. We have adolescent mental health first aid, and we have adult mental health first aid, and anybody can take that. A church, a DSS, any office can take that training, and it's an 8-hour training. I forgot to mention the CIT training above that. That's a 40-hour training. that we offer for free. We also, every year, the past 5 years, have been giving out naloxone kits. I really hate to actually give out naloxone kits because those are kits that prevent someone from dying of an overdose. But I will say about 2 years ago, I actually witnessed one on Arlington, and the police and the EMS were right there, and I saw the guy, and they were right there in time and brought him back to life with a naloxone kit. Okay. Now, we also make sure that when naloxone kits are used to bring someone back to life, they also get some information about getting into treatment, because that's the biggest next step for folks. I can't say much about this, but it's on our website. We are doing a co-responder RFP. So that information is on our website. The 2 parties that can apply for it are law enforcement and DSS. Please take a look at that at the website, okay? We also we just granted an RFP for outpatient opioid treatment with the Rocky Mount Treatment Center, which is going to be in Pitt County. So that will be starting up, and literally that RFP was just awarded. So it'll take a while for that to get started. As you know, Dr. Saeed at ECU has been pretty big on the telepsychiatry, and we're trying to build that up within the state in order for that to be a Medicaid billable service. The state has also done NC START, and that's for residential and crisis services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So now let me just take this last piece with our call center. Our call center is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The number is right there. We kind of have 2 levels, 2-tiered staff, because we do get calls in our call center about, can you tell me where the closest podiatrist is? Okay. We get those calls, but we also get calls, I'm thinking of hurting myself. And so we have licensed clinicians managing that call. And so we do a really brief screening. The other thing that's a little bit different from us with some of the other MCOs, some of the MCOs have all of their calls going straight through the crisis, or straight through their access to care line. Well, we always say no wrong door. So if you know somebody over at Port, or if you know somebody over at Integrated, or any of those other providers out there, call them too. All right, because we want that access to be quick. And so it's not a funneling in, you have to call us and then we refer you out. But a lot of people do call us. We get 2,000 to 3,000 calls a month on that. We just ask 4 simple questions: name, phone number, county, and insurance. And then we ask them about their scenario. What's the issue that's arising? We try to make sure that after that brief screening, we get them linked up to services, and our folks in the call center can tell whether these services are needed immediately. And we call that urgent. And then there's emergent and routine. And some folks will be, yeah, I'm not feeling so good, but I'm still going to work and I'm still paying all my bills, but I need to talk to somebody. That's a routine setup. And so we would try to refer them to basic outpatient services. I hope I answered what Jan had called me about, and I went through this really quickly. So the other thing that I do want to hand out, and we do have the access to care brochures, and we try to make sure, and it's been a little bit difficult with COVID, to keep our DSSs and our health departments and our law stocked with these. So I'm giving these to you all. We also have a flyer or a brochure on the mental health first aid, the crisis intervention training, and these integrated family services, RAC cards. and then the Weathering the Storm brochures that we produce. And so I'm going to leave these over here just for handouts. So, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. Here. Sheila, right
Oh,
here.
yeah, you sounded like you were coming from the speaker. Yeah. Yes.
What happens to people who do not have insurance?
So we have basically two funding streams. We have Medicaid, okay, and a lot of folks, especially children, qualify for Medicaid services.
Okay.
All right. But we also have state-funded dollars. And those state-funded dollars are for those that are completely uninsured.
Okay.
I'll throw a caveat in there, and Jan knows this also, that state funds are fairly limited though. Okay, our Medicaid dollar is about 85% of our budget. Our state dollars is about 13%, 14% of our budget.
Thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions?
Don't see any more hands.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And let me share that Dave and I have been talking, and so some of the information is now on the county's website. And links, you can go, if you get on our website or you go to the county's website, you can see links to Trillium. You can see the rack cards for the chat line, mobile crisis, those kinds of things. So just if folks go to Pitt County government, that the website, and then look at crisis resources, it'll pop up for you, and it takes you back to Trillium site, takes you to us, lots of places to see those. So those are now up there.
I mean,
That was good work. That's good collaboration.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, Jan, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay. All right, and Cynthia's out there to kind of help us a little bit in case we have questions that I can't answer.
Thank you, Dave. Good seeing you, Sean.
Thank you. Good to see y'all. We're asking, and it's something we don't typically do outside of the regular funding cycle, but this year we are asking to get an adult protective services supervisor in mid-year. We have seen increases. We have seen the stress levels go up. And this was part of our budget request in the last budget year. So we are going, once you all talk it through and decide if you support this, then we will take it to the county commissioners to see what we can do. Right now, our adult protective services staff to supervisor ratio is 2 supervisors to 14 social workers, and the recommended ratio is 1 to 5. So we are certainly over the limit now with our 2 supervisors. Why do we need the position? So we'll go to the next slide. The complexity of the cases, they certainly require a lot of skilled decision-making. Our regular case staffings with our supervisors have to be done, and they have to be done routinely, timely. It's really critical for our new staff, and we've had a fair amount of turnover, which we'll talk about in a minute, to have that support from that supervisor. That 2-level decision-making is required throughout the process. Timely initiation is critical, so we need to make sure that we make the decisions about initiating a case on a timely basis. Wrong decisions can have serious consequences for those that we serve. They're vulnerable, they're disabled, some of them. They've suffered from abuse, neglect, exploitation. Some of that's financial exploitation. It could be medical neglect, very serious kinds of situations. And certainly we're charged with the rights, with protecting the rights of those vulnerable adults. One of the things that has really come into play, because our folks have Social Security benefits, or they may have retirement money or some of those things, getting that supervisor and that social worker to coordinate benefits in a timely manner so that we can make sure that that adult's benefits can go for their needs when we get involved. That's really important, and if we don't do it timely, then the county has to advance those funds, and we can't use those dollars to reimburse ourselves once we get access to those funds. So that needs to be done as quickly as possible. I can say that we've seen a 59% caseload growth in the last 7 years. Much of that has come in the last couple of years. We've seen a 60% jump in reports. The first quarter of this year, 183 reports. The last quarter of last year, 114 reports. So adult services has been on the upward trend as a result of a lot of things. One, of course, is the population is changing. So keep continuing. As I said, the caseloads are continuing to increase. Supervisors have to screen every report before the worker can be assigned to go out, because we don't always screen in a report. So 75 to 80% of those reports require that social worker intervention. So that's why being timely to get those screenings done. If you're getting 5, 7, 10 reports some days, it's very tough for a supervisor to screen those reports, plus do the other things that a supervisor needs to do. So that's a challenge. Our staff turnover has increased. You see, in 2019, our adult services unit had a 24% turnover. Thus far in 2020, we've had a 36% turnover. And that's for a lot of reasons. There's been retirements, burnouts, the job fit just maybe isn't right. The supervisors and the program manager are now doing casework to try and cover some of the staffing needs. Supervisors need to be doing training, monitoring, mentoring, laying that good foundation for staff so that they can do the job they need to do. And unfortunately, with all the running around we're doing right now, we're not able to do what we feel like is a really good job. Our APS supervisor resigned effective October 30th, the one that we currently have. And she resigned because of stress of the job, the time commitment. She was working nights, weekends, etc. And when I talked to her about it, she said, you know, one of the biggest things for me was I worried daily about what wasn't getting done. And I couldn't handle it anymore. So, you know, that as we sat down and talked about this, that was sort of the wake-up call that we really needed to be doing something. So if we go to the next slide, we have comp hours of over 1,000 hours in a 12-month period. And then you add in COVID this year has certainly stressed us out even more. We've had staff quarantining awaiting test results, staff exposure to COVID at work, which meant they had to quarantine. Fortunately, they did not get COVID, but they had to quarantine. We've had the childcare issues regarding to COVID, so folks are having to be out to deal with school and with childcare concerns. And then you had staff and family exposure requiring quarantine. Fortunately, the state has given us temporarily 3 temps that we have using COVID dollars. 2 of them are basically full-time and 1 is part-time. So they're helping. The COVID issue is going to go away eventually, and that staff will go away in December. But we're still going to have the growth in the population and the needs that we have. Going to the next slide, you will see that we are measured in the MOU as it relates to APS and our timeliness. And we have not met the requirements of 85% of assessments being completed within 30 days. You see, we met that requirement 3 out of the last 8 months. So we clearly are not meeting those requirements. So there are a lot of things at play there, but good supervision and support can help with that. So looking at the cost, which is the next slide. If we were able to get this position approved and get somebody on board by January 1, which would be kind of tricky, might be a little bit later than that, but say in 6 months, the total cost of that position would be $39,519 for that 6 months. We have a 65% reimbursement rate. So the county cost would be $13,832. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that we've got some dollars in the budget that we can use to cover this. The first thing would be the COVID leave. We're paying for that apparently out of COVID funds, as I understand it. And for the salary and fringes when folks are out on COVID leave. And so that has freed up some county match dollars that would be available. We estimate $20,784 has already been freed up. So that by itself would cover the cost. Now, the other thing is that we have the CAP program in-house, the Community Alternative Program, and we've seen a 63% increase in our CAP reimbursements for the first quarter of this fiscal year. And that there are some reasons for that. The state has changed how they reimburse us. But the first quarter last year, we received $28,132 in CAP reimbursement. The first quarter for this year, we have received $85,629 in CAP reimbursement. And those dollars were not budgeted at that level. So those figures, those dollars also would cover the cost of this position. So I know that the county, when I go and talk about this, is going to say, well, now what's going to happen with the 21-22 budget? Because we want this to be a permanent position. And so Susan, go to the next slide. The total cost for the salary and fringe that would be the county share next year would be $24,914. And that's based on a salary of $57,389. So again, the CAP reimbursements would support that. But again, it is not a significant amount of county dollars. And the payoff, both in quality of services and in some of the ability to maintain some of the financial needs, and the cost of turnover would more than benefit from that. So that's my request. That's my justification. Cynthia's here also if you have any questions, but and I'm available to answer questions about this. And my hope would be that y'all would support this. And I see Mary Perkins Williams has her hand up.
And I know you expected it.
Yes, ma'am. She's been one of our caseworkers lately.
Mrs. Elliott, I want to thank you and your staff for what you do in this area. Gosh, when I think about it, it brings tears to my eyes as to the kinds of things that you have to endure with adults and handling adults. I like to say to the board that during my tenure here on the county commission board, I believe there's been 3 cases that come through because it just seemed so serious and the family knew me. But this is a much needed position. And gosh, when you get old, you never know what the children are gonna do. And when you really get old, some of them may not have children, but you just hope and trust that somebody out there will care for you enough to step in and help you out. But it's good to have a caring leader at the helm, such as Mrs. Elliott, and she has staff as such. Now, if it doesn't sound like that I'm supporting this, I want you to know without a doubt that I support this. And I'm very much willing to discuss privately any of it with anybody on the phone, but I just cannot talk about the need for this enough other than let you know that this is a weak spot for me. And whatever we can do to support this, Mr. Chairman, I encourage you, as far as I'm concerned, represent how I feel on the board with this effort of going forward with this request. Thank you so much, you guys, for your patience. And I just hope it happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
And Ms. Nelson has her hand
Mr.
up.
Chairman, I think Ms. Elliott has made a compelling case for moving forward with this position. So I don't know if it's in order or not that we would move that she move forward with trying to obtain this position.
You've got Ms. Nelson with her
If we-
hand up.
One other comment, we have Ms. Nelson. Catherine?
I would agree wholeheartedly that it seems like this is a safety issue for for this population specifically. And the cost is almost neutral, it looks like, very little cost to the county. It just seems like the right thing to do, especially with COVID making things so much worse for the older population. So I would wholeheartedly support a motion to move forward with filling this position. Or going to the county commissioners, I guess is what the motion would be.
Thank you, Catherine. So Jan, just a point of order, how do we proceed with this? It sounds like we have, strong support for this position. So what as a board, how do we show that? What do we do?
I think what you need to do first is the motion to say
Okay.
that we support going forward as Dr. Bunch put forward. And then, if y'all want to be present the night we have that discussion, certainly you're welcome to, although we're limited in numbers there. But that would
Okay.
be what I would
Thank you.
suggest.
So it sounds like Dr. Bunch has made the motion, and it sounds like Catherine, you would second that motion? Okay, and so Susan, if we could do a roll call in terms of the vote, showing strong support for the backing of this position.
Okay. Chair Cox,
Agree.
Dr. Bunch,
Agree.
Mr. Dancy,
Agree.
Ms. Nelson,
Agree.
Ms. Parkins Williams.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, the motion passes strongly, so hopefully we can pass that motion along. And
Okay.
thank you. So going to move into your
Okay,
director's report.
right,
We're running
right.
a little bit long here.
Yeah, we're moving right along. The COVID grant that we applied for, we do not have an answer for yet. I was hoping that we would have heard something by today. They have asked a few questions early on, but we have not heard anything since that first week when it was submitted. So hopefully we'll know something soon. We are still working on doing all the detail kind of work that you need to do to get something like this moving.
And this is just, you want just a little bit description of this, Jan?
Right, this is our application for $900,000 to pay for rent and utility for folks who have struggled as a result of the COVID crisis and gotten behind. And we will be working closely with the courts because our focus as far as the rental assistance is going to be those who are already in the eviction process.
Yep.
Okay. So the Medicaid application process and report, unless somebody's got a question, we passed. You've got the chart in front of you, so I won't spend time on that. Agency personnel, we are continuing to recruit and hire there. The report you have in front of you shows 3 positions frozen. I can tell you that since this report was put together, they unfroze 1 position, so now we only have 2 frozen, and they're the folks that resigned at the end of October. So we are working hard to get positions filled. You see, we have several in background checks, several we're in the process of interviewing, and we've got 2 advertising. So those are the key things for my report at this point. We've got a lot of things that the board needs to be talking about over the next few months, and I'm sure y'all will figure out how you want to do that.
Okay, thank you, Jan. So last, as always on our agenda, is a board member comments. So I'll pause for that. Do we have any comments?
Mr. Chair, I'm just so excited about our initiative to educate the community about resources that are available. And I think that's something we should continue to do. I'm excited that Dr. Frazier is still here.
Don't let him go, dude.
We're trying to hold him.
She got me anchored.
And that Miss Elliott continues to work and advocate for her staff and to try to hold things down during this challenging pandemic and economic crisis, so to speak. So kudos to everyone.
Well said. Thank you. Others?
I see no hands.
I see no hands. So I'm going to,
Oh,
whoop,
got one.
Mary,
Mary?
That's a motion to adjourn.
I figured that. So we're gonna have to call the roll for that.
We need a
do we have
second.
a second?
I need a second.
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 I knew it. Okay, Susan?
Chair Cox,
Agreed.
Dr. Bunch,
Strongly agree.
Mr. Dancy. I see a thumbs up. Ms. Nelson,
Yes, agree.
Ms. Perkins Williams,
I agree.
all in agreement.
Adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Stay safe.